Okay, so let's talk about your paycheck. So your immediate reaction after I share this with you is going to be that it's just completely impossible to do. But please try to just hear me out and trust that the solution works. Okay, so it's super simple. It's the 10-10-80 solution. But what's even more important than these amounts is the order that you pay them. So the very first thing that you do after you receive your paycheck is to give 10% of it away, or give it to God. Stay with me. I know that sounds crazy, but stay with me. So then, after you give away 10%, you pay 10% to yourself, and then, after all that, you use the 80% to creditors and everything else in life. Now, before you completely dismiss the idea, let me explain myself. Most people do this backwards. They start by spending their money on things they need and want, having the best of intentions to save and give money away with whatever is left at the end of the month. But then what happens? Human nature, remember? We can't discipline ourselves to stop spending when there's money sitting in our checking accounts. So let me explain why the solution works. First of all, you might think I'm making kind of a bold assumption that you believe in God in the first place and that you believe in paying tithing or even care about paying 10% to contributions or charitable contributions. However, there are two big reasons that I know of to give 10% of your income away first, regardless of your religious beliefs. Number one is that it makes us much more compassionate, and as a result, we tend to be less greedy with the rest of our money, meaning we spend less on ourselves, usually. Number two is that it gives us a more objective view of what types of things are necessities and what are luxuries. When you're giving money away to people in need and you're able to witness the humble circumstances of others, it suddenly seems a bit immature to be getting so many things for yourself that are certainly not necessary to survival. Now, I personally believe that as long as we've been paying that 10%, we have been blessed both spiritually and temporally. So if you don't belong to a church, think of something you're passionate about or find a cause that you want to contribute to and give that 10% first without any strings attached. Make it like a regular bill that comes out automatically. And if you absolutely have to, start small, but always give first and work up to that 10% as quickly as you can. So now we come to the 10% we pay ourselves as savings. This is where a lot of people go wrong, failing to pay yourself before everything else. Remember that you deserve to keep some of your hard-earned money. You might really believe that you should not possibly be allowed to keep any when you owe so many other people, but you have to think of it as wearing a seatbelt. It's a safety feature to help protect you from the surprises of life. You always have to pay yourself that 10%. This is a quote from the Dave Ramsey blog. It says, "The secret to saving money is to make it a priority, but that happens only when you start to feel some healthy anger or fear and then focus that emotion on your personal decisions. Harnessing that emotion will make you move yourself to the top of your creditor list. Then ask yourself which bill is the most important. After tithing, who should you pay first this month? The answer is you. Until you pay God first, then yourself, then everyone else, then you will never save money if you don't do those things." So you pay yourself 10%. Make it like a regular bill as well. It doesn't even hurt to put it in another bank so you can't see it and be tempted to use it. The idea is to turn this savings account into your contingency fund, which would ideally be funded up to 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Some people are going to argue that this amount would do better for you as an investment, but again, you have to think of it as a seatbelt for life surprises. This amount has to stay liquid and accessible enough so that you could reach it in an emergency. You want it to be out of the stock market. You can usually still expose this amount to a pretty reasonable interest rate without making it at risk or unreachable in an emergency. And remember, this is an emergency fund. It's for a job loss or some other urgent and absolutely necessary situation. Christmas comes every year on December 25th. You know it's coming. There's no excuse to not save up for it ahead of time and have to dip into your savings. Back to school time is not an excuse to use it. Big sales are not an excuse to use it. Urgent, necessary emergencies only. Some people will say, shouldn't I be paying back creditors with this 10%? And while it's true that you will want to pay back your creditors as quickly as possible, you have to build up some kind of liquid emergency fund before you can pay back creditors. Otherwise, what's going to happen the next time an emergency happens while you're busy paying everyone back? You're going to charge those credit cards right back up again. Even if you can't get all the way up to that 3 to 6 month goal, get some amount in there before you finish paying everyone back. Dave Ramsey suggests a savings of $1,000 first, then pay back creditors with that extra 10% you should be saving, then get your fund up to 3 to 6 months. Once you get your contingency fund fully funded where you want it to be, you can begin putting that 10% towards other things that we'll talk about later on. But the point to understand here is that you should always be saving 10%, always be paying yourself 10%, always and forever. So now you're left with 80%, and this is the hard part that hurts sometimes. Now you need to be able to adjust your lifestyle to fit within the 80% you have left. And remember, the amount of debt that you are in has very little to do with your income and more about your attitude. So many people believe that if they just earned more money, then everything would be fine. But remember human nature. If you can't put a stop to spending right now, you would continue to spend up to or beyond your limit if you had more money. If you had more money, it would still be a mirror of your current situation, just on a bigger scale. So trust me, you can live on 80% of your income. It will take sacrifices, but it's definitely possible. I have tons of tips to share about how to do that, but it's going to be more on the tail end of these videos, and we'll probably take several videos even to get through all of those. So next week we'll be going over how to keep track of your spending. You need to keep track of every single penny that you spend, and I'll talk about how to do that next time.